Ori. Ori what? Orisha. Thank you.
Guys, I'm very pleased with it because in order to be authentic, it has to be written in 3 languages. If it's based in Lagos, which it is, it must have Yoruba, it must have Pidgin, which is a different language, and it must have English. And I am, as I said a little earlier, I am absolutely delighted that people talk to me about the plot and the characters. And no one in the UK has ever mentioned to me that this language thing, and as my very good friend and agent Aduke has said, well, if you put croissant into a story, nobody asks you what it is. They eat it at breakfast, move on, okay? And that's how I try to write it, so that you will know what it is, right? You just read it in context. I don't need to explain Uludu to you. You very quickly realize this is a foolish person. So, but as a book, no matter what genre the book is, it needs to tell a story. And Orisha tells a story about the incredible drama of having a child go missing. It doesn't really matter why your child goes missing. If you have a child and that child goes missing, you will understand what this is about. So, short chapter. Deji's own Didi going into the house, the way she walked, face to the ground, taking the quick steps of a woman who wants to run but can't, told him something was amiss. He would have gone to check on her, but before he could, Pastor Mike took him by the arm and steered him away from everyone towards the end of the garden. Deji tried to hide his frustration. Pastor Mike was the last person he wanted to accompany on a stroll around the garden. But Pastor Mike's bodyguard had already positioned himself so they wouldn't be disturbed. Pastor Mike put an arm around Deji's shoulders and pulled him close as they walked. Deji, my boy, today has been hard. Mommy was a special woman. She was, Oga. When I say special, we know what I mean. Shogbomi, Benisa. But we can speak plainly. Mommy's not here to take offense. Pastor Mike nodded to himself. Yes, plain speaking is good. Tell me, have you seen her will? So now I want to skip, because I wanted to just show the multi-language nature, that is not a barrier. You can just write these things. But then, in all of this, there's a story, and the story must be dramatic. So night fell, but the reception showed no sign of winding down. If anything, the attendees were becoming more boisterous. Deji was staring into the bottom of a glass when a quiet voice interrupted him. Oga, he looked up and clenched his jaw. Pastor Mike's bodyguard stood in front of him. Can I help you? Deji rifled his memory for the man's name. Bolaji, sir. Yes, sorry, my mind's a mess. Bolaji, what can I do for you? Pastor said, make I ask you if you want us to clear the place for you. Clear? Deji took a moment to catch on. Oh, clear. Yes, sir. Deji clasped his hands in prayer. Please. He thought it would take time to persuade people to leave, but Bolaji and the bouncers turned off the music, shut the bar, emptied the dance floor, got waiters stacking tables and chairs, and had everyone off the premises in 13 minutes. When Chichi and Bode were being asked to move on, Deji hid behind a pillar and let the eviction happen. Bolaji was charming but firm, and Deji remembered that Pastor Mike's people did this kind of thing all the time. Afterwards, Deji wanted to thank Pastor Mike for his man's assistance, but Bolaji was even better at removing his boss from an event than he was at shutting it down. Ndidi came down a little later, saying a migraine had forced her to take a break. Alone and tired, they stared at each other across the coffee table. You okay, she asked. I suppose so. You? I suppose so, though that headache came on suddenly. I don't think I was missed. I'm sure Chichi missed you. Where's Tola? Did Joy put her to bed? Ndidi felt ashamed that she didn't know where Tola was. She'd been so wrapped up in her problems, she'd hardly given the poor girl a thought since they got back from church. She must have done, she said, getting to her feet and making her way to Tola's room. In her mind, Ndidi knew Joy had never put Tola to bed and wouldn't do so without being asked. Tola wasn't in her room or any room in the house. Tola! The first call was just loud enough to be heard indoors. The last was an anguished scream outside in the dark. Nobody had seen Tola in hours. she was gone.
Wow. Wow. You know, I don't think we need further conviction to know that Mr. Sikwande simply walks the talks. All the talks that he's been, all the points, points about creative writing that he has been marshalling here today. His book is a testament or it's an embodiment of those points. Please, let's appreciate it one more time. Yeah. I personally, I love it. Yeah, I love it without milli-mouthing. I'm not pretending because you are here. I just love it. And I know Mr. Anote does too, and Ms. Ayingbero. Yeah, so I just call you Temi Dayo. Yeah, Anote. You know, for simplicity's sake. Looking at Orisha, you see there is a lot of contemporaneity. I mean, if you look at what is happening in Nigeria, in Nigerian society, in terms of Pentecostalism, I mean, church. Mr. Anote, I think this question goes to you. Would you consider Orisha as a form of a swipe on Christianity in Africa? Something, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And we have Mr. Delesikwaji to thank for this amazing work. So perhaps to lay the proper groundwork for the audience and those who are listening to us online. How much is a copy and where can they possibly get it to buy? I mean, because a book should be read by. And you've had an amazing class, of students, and they will be eager to want to, to buy it. So how much is a copy and where can they get it? Right there at the fairground or elsewhere?
So you can get it right here, and it will be on sale throughout LABAF. I believe it is priced at 15,000 naira. And however, you can also get the book from Amazon, which is obviously anywhere in the world, either as an ebook or as a novel. So.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks for dodging that really tough question, yo.
Okay, so back to your question, Asaze. Is it a swipe at the church or Christianity? In my thinking, it's not. It's probably a call for us to do better and not use the name of God in vain. Because, I mean, Pastor Mike, one of the lead characters in the story, owns a mega church, a multi-billion mega church, has private jets, everything that our modern day Pentecostal pastors have, except perhaps how to actually administer salvation to their audience, to their members, because the church has become an instrument of acquiring things that ordinarily, I mean, this is a man who transformed from being a babalawo, a proper babalawo now, and then the child that has gone missing, without giving so much away, is part of the foundation for his success in his church. And this is not exactly something that we don't know in reality amongst some. I mean, it's not sweeping now. Some of these characters who own some of these mega churches, there are a lot of stories that swirl around them. Are they true? Are they real? It's left for you and me to decide what that is. But we know that some of these unsavory tales about them, about how they come about their powers, are not something that we actually up for debate. Some of them actually go to the extra mile, extra Christian spirituality, as a matter of fact, to get these powers. That's not, up for debate. All right? So if an artist picks one of these characters to say, look, this extra means of gaining power is unsavory, should be discouraged, which I suppose is the intent of this portrayal. You wouldn't say it's a swipe on Christianity per se, because if at all is it happens is to say, look, why do you have to go this extra mile to do this? You can kneel down and pray to God for powers. And if you are genuine, he will give you the anointing. You don't need to, resort to extra powers. Of course, a Babalawo, becoming a Christian and preaching is a marvelous thing, which is exactly what Christianity is about. It's not for the righteous. It's for those who are on the other side of darkness, quote unquote, bringing them onto light. So to transform from a Babalawo to a Christian and a pastor, beautiful. But you should be able to share that past for the new that you say you have, come onto. But this is not the case. And so a human life, is involved in this transformation from darkness to supposed light. That's probably even darker than the light this man is coming from. So, it's for me, it's the right critique. We can do better as Christians and rely on the God that we pray to, and not those extra powers that we say we are moving from, whereas in actual fact, we are transplanting them into the church and making it even worse.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my pastor. Thank you very much. I do not think there's any way we can totally remove religiosity or religion from the whole conversation of this book. Personally, I see it as a struggle for hegemony between two religions, personally, right? Yeah, metaphorically speaking, because you could say that the Kehinde, right? The child that was murdered, she could be symbolically representative of the African traditional religion. Now, I'm going to ask a question, Mr. Sikwande. I think you are in the best position to answer this. Do you see the death and resurrection of African cosmology and religion as exemplified by the character of Kehinde in her triumph over, in terms of her quest to avenge herself?
Yep. So, my view about this is that actually, if you pick on a Christian, the Christian is not allowed to say that you have picked on Christianity. That is a very different thing. My own view of that is exactly who do you think you are? You are not Christianity. Christianity is way above any individual. So that I might have a character who proclaims to be Christian is simply that I am picking on the type of character who is fictitious, but a kind of character that my audience can relate to. In this Nigeria, we can all relate to that character. That's why I picked the character. That's why I made the character that way. But I'm not in any way trying to be profound. And people, I believe, will struggle with that. I actually only want to be read and for my book to have entertained you, to have made you think, and if, in order to do so, I have to shine a light on something, then I will do so. But please remember that I am shining a light on my own past. I was sitting at Majaro Street with my friends Onyema and Dada and Victor and playing table tennis when we heard Bomo Bomo are around. So when I write about Bomo Bomo taking a child, nobody should come and tell me that this is some kind of who do you think you are. This is from my own life, my own childhood. And I, as an adult, just wanted to understand that. But I also wanted to shine a light on it, that this is a practice that should not be hidden. And then all I did was I sat down and I worked out, well, why would you do that? So, in fact, people have read, within Orisha, there are these things called the rules of Juju. And people have gone, oh, so it appears that the rules of Juju are written in another book. Abi? They're not. I wrote them all. I wrote all of them. They're mine. I made them up. Okay? And I made them up from one rule. Because I, too, I am from Yaba. I'm from this country. I'm Nigerian, and I know what all these are. I made them up because as a boy, people told me that the reason I didn't believe that if you lent a broom against the mango tree, that you will be compelled to sweep around the base of the tree, right? If you go and take the mangoes, I think we may have heard that too, right? Is because my mother was Oimbo and juju doesn't cross water. So we all have this rule that we kind of know that juju doesn't cross water. And it occurred to me, okay, what about some more? So I just made them up. And I brought them to life. And what I really wanted to do was I just wanted to entertain you. I want you to read a book. I don't want to be profound. I don't want to be standing up in a pulpit, beating somebody of, I don't want to attack Christianity. It's a wonderful religion.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry.
I disagree with you totally. Like, you don't want to entertain, like, nothing profound. That's not how I read the book.
It is, okay, you can contain profundity.
Perhaps you should hear the lady, view on a thing like that.
Yes.
Okay, when he said that he was not attempting to be profound, I wanted to say that, but you were unintentionally profound. It wasn't your intention, but it was profound anyway. You have to think. It is something that speaks to everybody. It's relatable. There are churches out there that you hear stories of, like he said, and there are people out there that they are the voices of reason. I would take Ndidi character as that person. She was the voice of reason, but people looked at her like she was crazy. But to me, she was the sanest person at the end of the day. So when you are different and you are not agreeing with what a lot of people are saying, especially when it concerns Abrahamic religions, people look at you like you are the demon. Meanwhile, you are trying to point them to the actual problem, to what is actually going on. So it is profound, even if you did not intend it to be. People are seeing a lot of evidence. You imagine you went to a church, they are carrying offering baskets around, you drop 100 naira because that's what you can afford, and the usher says, bros, you can do better now. It is enough evidence for any sane person to think that this is not right. But people are not seeing it because it happened in a church and they believe that their pastor is powerful, especially with the Babalawo background that was mentioned. So a lot of people don't really believe in God. They are just scared of the powers of their pastors, and they are not willing to listen to the voice of reason around them because maybe they have something that they're already familiar with. And when they listen to the voice of reason, they have to start over. They need to question a lot of things. People don't want to ask questions because they are afraid that they might not get answers, or maybe the answers that they get, they might not like it. So they just move on with the status quo. And I believe that these points that we are making right here, they are not shallow, are they? Exactly, they are not shallow. However entertaining that this book might be, it is profound, it is deep at the end of the day, sir.
I am honestly very moved. No, really, thank you. I wanted, to be honest, I wanted to entertain, but you are quite right. I'm not being honest if I also said that there is not something in there that I wanted to be profound. And my characters are actually a composite of characters. Yeah, Ndidi is somebody who, some of her traits are from people I know, right? She's a strong woman.
You can't point to the pastor, really.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you go and research, you will find a Babalawo who became the pastor and set up a church.
I was going to accuse you of that, sir. I was going to dispute your saying, initially that you just made everything up.
But they are composite characters, right? Because I have to avoid the idea that what I am telling is the truth, that you should listen. So when I say I don't want to be profound, what I'm trying to say is that I don't want to be a lone voice standing up and talking about these things as if I am some kind of authority on the subject. I'm a writer. My job is to shed light on things. And by and large, I try not to tell lies. But because I'm a writer and I must entertain, I will also invent. There aren't the rules of juju that I have written, okay? So one of the rules of juju is that if you want something powerful, don't bring ogogoro and kola nut. Bring tears of despair, okay? I made that up. I made that up because I thought it sounded nice. There is no such rule. There is no Babalawo or Iyanifa anywhere who's going to go, yeah, no, that's very, very true. Come and cry. Before we do our ceremony. They said, bring kola nuts and ogogoro and all the usual things. Where did you hear this? Dele Shikwade, he wrote a book, don't mind him. So I don't want to be at the center of what I think I would like to see change, right? And I don't want to attach the label of a man to a religion. You call yourself a Christian does not make you Christianity. You do not necessarily represent it. And if you don't represent it in some of the ways that I don't believe you do, then it's my job as a writer to shine a light on that. Then if you can survive being under that spotlight, good luck to you.
Okay, I think, if I may, as they say, no writing is innocent. No writing is innocent. And indeed, every writing is political. Depends on what you define by, mean by politics. All right? In this instance, the politics of religion. And growing up as a child in the late 70s and early 80s, this Goma issue that he has written about was very real. In my world, back then in Bender State, eventually Edo Delta, Boma was real, and such disappearances weren't uncommon either. And what were they for? Those disappearances is for ritual purposes, all right? So in a sense, you've actually dredged up something that was familiar and real in my own world while growing up. So even if you invented the rules of juju, for instance, you drew from the mythologies that we grew up with. For instance, don't sweep at night. Or when you sweep, put it somewhere near the door. Don't pack it and go and throw it into the dustbin. You just keep it there. Because it is believed that, some figures, entities will come at night to,
Mami water.
Well, it may not be Mami water per se, all right? For those who live, I live close to a river, all right? Okay. But there are some entities believed to come to feed in the house. So if you threw those dirt away, they will come and not see anything and probably grab one of the children in the house, for instance, in whichever way. So these are the kind of beliefs that we as Africans we used to, that we grew up with, which is what he drew from by drawing up his own rules for his book. Yes, they may be fictional, but they have some element of the myths that we as Africans. He grew up in Yaba. Yaba back in the days was one village. Yes, one village.
I grew up next to a swamp.
Forget about what it is now. Back in the 80s, 70s, Yaba was a village, an African village, where when day breaks, you go to a junction, you see sacrificial objects. It still happens here, even in this Lagos. If you go to some communities,
we still have Oro Festival.
Oro Festival, for instance, is still rife in most communities. What is that? It's something that grew up from our own religion, which Pastor Mike has cleverly, smartly, turned into his own mega empire by calling it a church.
Yeah, I agree with you. Please, let's clap let's appreciate our panelists. We are doing so well. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the first half of the panel discussion. We'll progress into the second half of this interesting conversation. And I absolutely agree with my co-panelist. I don't know if I should call myself a panelist, because you can see that I could decipher that consciously or unconsciously you were influenced by the happenings in our society. For instance, there's a common saying that an author does not write in vacuum, so definitely something inspires you. I was not going to ask you about the inspiration because that's almost like a cliche, right? Sure. But your Pastor Mike is reminiscent of a pastor who leads a synagogue in Nigeria. I'm not going to mention his name, but he leads a synagogue. You know, yeah, I don't know.
You see, this is how he gets me into trouble, though. He said it. before they bring fatwa to come on my head.
Okay, yeah, that was cool. Something quite impressive, right? This day is quite hard for someone of Yoruba extraction to create a story, you know, that captures the diversity of Nigeria. I'm talking about having in the day, you know, marrying Deji, you know, something like that. To an extent, there is a level of questionably, you know, harmony, you know, understanding, level of understanding, tolerance. I'd like you to speak to that, you know, Temidayo. How does that come into context with our present day reality of ethnic tolerance and harmonious coexistence?
Thank you. So concerning Ndidi and Diji's relationship, it was not supposed to be complicated. From what I understand from the book, it wasn't supposed to be complicated. However, the external factors that influenced their relationship made it unnecessarily complicated. And unfortunately, they were not great on communication. There were secrets, we had classism as well. Because I believe a lot of people are familiar with the saying that I'd rather cry in a Bentley than cry in a keke. Yeah, so indeed the situation was quite similar to that. She was not in a good place with her husband, but she was scared to leave because of not what even herself is going. I don't want to give too much away, but I need to mention that she had a child. She was a single mom, and Deji married her. So she was concerned about the daughter that, okay, if I leave this marriage now, how is my daughter going to cope? What kind of school is she going to attend? And all of that. Fortunately for her, she had a husband, that's Deji, that cared for the child, but she was afraid that the child would be indoctrinated like the adults were. So at the beginning of the relationship, there was understanding until there wasn't. And after the child got missing, they started to come to another level of understanding. Where I'm going with this is that if people are willing to understand one another as individuals, we are going to go a long way. But if we are standing on ethnic stereotypes, racial stereotypes to relate, or gender stereotypes to relate with one another, it's going to make our relationships more complicated. So as much as we can, we should listen. We shouldn't just talk. We should listen to one another. We should try to understand one another, understand one another's background, relate with one another as individuals. Why? Just keep what you've heard, keep it aside and try to know the person in front of you. That way we are going to make a lot of progress. There will be less fight, and yeah, we're just going to make collective progress at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you, I mean, it's like an offshoot of this, conversation. I mean, Mr. Sikwande.
About the ethnicity question?
What this
it's easy.
Coexistence, peaceful coexistence. Was this deliberate or?
It's very deliberate, right? It's very deliberate. You start by creating a character. Originally, I actually had a male character, and then I realized that the problem was that I was writing myself. Okay, and the thing that inspired me, okay, was when I was a child, growing up on Majaro Street, was that my house was the last house next to a swamp that went from my house to the University of Lagos. And as a child, I actually knew my way through. I used to go inside there and catch obokun. And I find it very interesting. We talk about oh, so what do you feel about this for our culture? And I just want to go, this is my culture. You can't tell me a single thing about it. Okay, I'm the boy who stood in Okupopo Street, whose grandmother brought the Babalawo in. As he was making blessings for me, she's reminding him, but what about car accident? You didn't cover that one. What about snake? So you can't tell me about this thing. What I've done, however, is I've taken my past, and I've taken the present, and I've just mashed it all up into one thing. And the truth of the matter is that multicultural, as in multi-ethnic, interracial marriage and all those kinds of things have always been here in Lagos, as far as I know, right? I have always, my neighbor was Hausa. My neighbor on the other side, Igbo. When I say I'm playing with my friends, I'm playing with Isa, Dada, Victor, Onyema, Otalu, from all over. The ethnicity question, I actually believe is modern. We didn't used to have it. Okay, my brother used to actually tease my neighbor from the balcony. He would shout, Abdul, because Abdul was fasting. He would be showing him that he's eating. Abdul would be shouting about, look, we used to mix. We understood different religions. It wasn't particularly a problem. And then all of a sudden, something seemed to happen to us. And now we're all talking and pretending like it has always been this way. No. Since I was a child, Yoruba people have been marrying Igbo people, have been marrying Hausa people, and we have had no problem.
Wow.
Even till now.
Wow.
You know?
Profound. Yeah.
And I wanted that because, okay, I spent most of my time in the UK. I want British people to know that we are like this. That there's this thing that they're talking about, please forget it. We're not like that. Donald Trump, I mean, what he said was just nonsense. I mean, okay, yes, we have murders, but don't come and start shouting from America, you that don't know anything about Nigeria. I've never set foot in anywhere. You're telling me, oh yes, and then we're gonna stop all those Muslims from massacring all these Christians. What are you talking about? You don't understand the first thing about us. Leave us alone. So
wow.
I want to be a voice to say, no, this is how we are. And to say, no, indeed, he's a real person. She can marry Deji. But of course, mommy is proper Yoruba, and so she has issues with this. So she will never refer to her. She will stress the N on her name because that's how people are. We don't forget who we are ethnically. We are Yoruba, but actually we have always mixed, and we are remarkably tolerant. This is really what I think is our presence. Instead of how bad, how divided we are, it's actually look at how remarkably well we mix.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. I actually wish we could actually take this conversation. We could prolong this conversation because it's really, really, really interesting. But we have time constraint. But one point you made that I can hold on to, and I suppose every young person here, especially the aspiring writers, is they need to know where you are coming from, know who you are. Like Mr. Sikwande here, who actually had a first-hand experience. He knows what it takes to be a Nigerian, so he can afford to talk authoritatively. So the Gen Z folks, if you want to be a good writer, if you want to be profound, you want to be deep, it is quite expedient that you do some historical research, know who you are, know where you are coming from, so you're able to have a clear projection of your future. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe this has been so wonderful. And yeah, I know a lot of you have questions. If you have questions, you could see him, in camera. I believe he's still going to be hanging around. And do not forget that copies of Orisha are available just downstairs. Go to Goramo Publishers. You have them in abundance. Just for 15K for you to have, to enjoy the medley of beautiful thematic exploration. This is where I drop my mic. Thank you very much. The festival continues, of course. Thank you. Yeah, definitely we're taking pictures. I can't forget that. Let's have pictures, and of course, yeah. Our chairman, please join us, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, let's take some